The majority of the Arabs in Singapore are Hadhramis, tracing their ancestry from the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula called Hadhramaut, which is now a part of the Republic of Yemen. The People's Democratic Republic of Yemen (PDRY) was formed on 30th of November 1967 when it achieved independence after 129 years of British rule. Some of the people living there are known as Hadhramis. The land there is mostly desert region. The fertile areas suitable for cultivation are small and concentrated in the Wadi region. This harsh natural environment drove the Hadhramis to travel out of the area to trade and acquire the necessary items they needed. They had traveled to and engaged in trade in several areas: Hyderabad, India, Dar es Salaam and East Africa, as well as Malaya and the Netherlands East Indies. Broadly speaking, the Hadhramis have three social strata. The first are the Alawi Sada, who are the descendants of the grandsons of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, namely Hassan ibn Ali and Hussein ibn Ali, and are known by the singular honorific Sayyid for men and Sharifa for women. In Yemen and elsewhere, many among them are revered religious scholars and administrators. The second of the Mashaykhs, many among whom are scholars too, and sometimes farmer. The family names often begin with Ba. Then the Gabails, also known as the Qataris, who are a collection of tribes. Most among them are landowners. Among the prominent Gabail families of the bin Talibs and bin Abdads and the honorific Sheikh and Sheikhah often precede the names. History. Hadrami migration. The early Arab settlers came to Singapore with wealth made in Indonesia. Being already familiar with Malay customs, they were accepted by the Malays living there. In 1824, the population of Singapore was 10,683. Out of this total, there were only 15 Arabs. In 1829, there were 34 Arabs with only 3 Arab women among them. The population increased as follows. The census for 1970s and 1980s is not believed to reflect the actual number of Arabs in Singapore. This is because a number of Arabs have been officially registered as Malay. After Singapore became an independent country in 1965, the ethnic Malays enjoyed educational benefits granted by the state. Some Arab families then listed the ethnicity of their children to Malay to receive these benefits. Because of intermarriage between Malay or Indian Muslim men and Arab women, some Malays and Indians have Arab ancestry. People of Arab descent matrilineally are not officially listed as Arabs as a person's race in Singapore, until 2010, was determined by his father's race. Identification with the Malays in Singapore. In Singapore, the Malays form the largest Muslim community. As such, being a Muslim in Singapore is usually closely associated with being Malay. Some Arabs had chosen to identify themselves as Malays. The Arabs here had been exposed to Malay culture and lifestyles and considered themselves a part of the Malay community. This choice of change of ethnicity on the part was also made possible because of their shared religion with the Malays, intermarriage with them, and also an acceptance and assimilation of Malay culture and values by the Arab community in Singapore. In fact, the Arabs have not only assimilated Malay culture and values but have played an active part in the lives of the Malay community in the religious and economic areas, as well as providing intellectual and social leadership. This took place even in the early years of British rule in Singapore. During this time, the Hadrami Arabs worked in land and property dealing, batik trade, importing goods from the Arab countries, and as brokers. Some of them also became teachers of the Islamic faith and organizers of the Hajj. Contribution to Singapore. The position and contribution of the Arabs to Singapore can be seen when a member of the Al-Junaid clan was appointed as a member of the mostly European-dominated Chamber of Commerce in 1837. Two Arabs, Syed Muhammad bin Ahmed al-Sagoff and Syed Muhammad bin Syed Omar al-Sagoff, served as municipal commissioners in 1872 to 1898 and 1928 to 1933 respectively. The Arabs formed their own association in 1946, which still exists today. The objectives then were to promote and enhance Islam as well as the use of Arabic language. By the time the Arab Association Singapore was founded, the Arab traders were the wealthiest community in Singapore. Syed Ali Muhammad al-Junaid, for instance, donated a large plot of land near Victoria and Arab streets to Tam Tok Seng's hospital. He also built public wells across town to provide free water, at a time when none was being supplied by the municipality. The al-Junaid family, after whom al-Junaid Road is named, made large donations to the construction of the town hall, while paying for the building of public bridges. The Al-Kaf footbridge on the Singapore River takes its name from another prominent Arab family, which built the first Japanese gardens open to the public before World War II. The Arabs were also well known for the contribution to Waqf lands. The Waqf land of Syed Muhammad al-Sagoff was formed in 1904 to help support efforts for orphanages, mosques and Islamic schools. Today, the Al-Junaid Islamic School and the Al-Sagoff Islamic School stand as a legacy of the contribution of the Arab community towards Islamic education. In Singapore, currently, almost the entire area Singapore Central Business District were once the Waqf lands which the government acquired in the 1970s with only the minimal compensation paid to the owners. Arab role in trade. The Arabs had played a dominant role in trade in Southeast Asia since the 15th century. When Sir Stamford Raffles founded Singapore in 1819, he attracted the Arab traders to his new city. By 1824, there were 15 Arabs out of a population of 10,683, and Raffles anticipated a rapid growth in Arab immigration. His blueprint for Singapore included plans for an Arab district. In his instructions to a Singapore Housing Committee in 1822, he stated, "The Arab population would require every consideration. No situation will be more appropriate for them than the vicinity of the Sultan's residence." The first Arabs to arrive in Singapore in 1819 were two wealthy merchants from Palembang, Sumatra. The numbers gradually increased, and by 1846, there were 5 important Arab merchant houses. The Al-Junaid family in Singapore grew to be rich and influential, as did the Al-Kafs and the Al-Sagoffs. There are streets and even a town council named after them. The Al-Sagoffs were spice traders and became influential by marrying into a royal family from the Celebes. They acquired many properties, like the other Arab families, including the Perseverance estate, where they grew lemongrass. The estate is now considered to be the heart of the Muslim community in Singapore. As well as being successful merchants and landowners, the family became involved in civic affairs. The family members, at times, held civic office from the 1870s until 1965. The Al-Kaf family arrived here in 1852. All these families lived in mansions of considerable opulence, like the Al-Kaf house. Today, the building is a restaurant called Al-Kaf Mansion as a gesture to preserve the name. Other than that, it has no other Hadhrami connection either in architectural style or ownership. Arab business domination. The Arabs dominated the businesses in Singapore, principally in oil and trade, during the British colonial period. Arabic culture had strong influence on the local Malay culture through its religion. This is seen in the Middle Eastern-style architecture of the mosques in Kampong Glam. In the heyday of Arab prosperity, the Arabs in Singapore maintained close links with Hadhramaut, and large amounts of money were sent back to the homeland. The rich built themselves splendid houses, like the Al-Kaf house. They also sent their sons back to Hadhramaut for periods of time to enhance their identity as Hadhramis. This custom maintained the language and Hadhrami culture. It even resulted in some Malay being incorporated in the spoken Arabic of Hadhramaut. Hadhramaut was regarded as a cultural training ground of the young Arab men, and the time spent there was the final preparation for manhood. Upon the return to Singapore, these young men would take the place in the family businesses. After World War II. During World War II it became impossible for the Hadhramis in Singapore to travel abroad, but they continued to do so thereafter. However, after the Rent Control Act came into effect, Hadhrami incomes were frozen, and it became clear that the Waqf incomes would not be sufficient for the next generation. It was then that the Arab families took a keener interest in the education of their children. The richer families sent the children to London to study, and the children of others spent time working in Aden rather than just going to Hadhramaut. The cultural and linguistic links were still maintained. However, the family incomes continued to decline. The 1960s. In the 1960s, there came a major change. The independence of South Yemen with a communist government in power put an end to the Singapore Hadhramis returning home. At the same time, the economic developments in Singapore made the importance of the English language and of obtaining an education even more essential. The new Arab generation had grown up without speaking Arabic and had lost both its identity and its affiliation with Hadhramaut. Some families, in the oil boom of the 1970s, tried sending the sons to the Persian Gulf or Saudi Arabia, but it was not a success. The young men did not like living in Saudi Arabia, as the prospects in Singapore were better than on the Arabian Peninsula. Present-day identity crisis. The Hadhrami community in Singapore is now facing an identity crisis. The younger generation does not speak Arabic and has lost its affiliation with Hadhramaut, partly because Hadhramis have stopped sending their children back there. Due to the above-mentioned factors and the current ongoing civil war in Yemen, it is unlikely that a strong link with Hadhramaut will be established anytime in the near future. Singaporean Arabs census today. Singapore is a cosmopolitan city-state made up of various races. The 1990 census shows the Chinese as the majority with around 74% of the population, the indigenous Malays with 14%, the Indians at less than 10%, and the balance placed in the category of others. This others category includes, but is not limited to, Filipinos, Eurasians, Vietnamese and Arabs. The census shows Arabs to be around 7,000, but unofficial estimates place the actual number of Arabs at around 10,000. Arabs and Waqf properties today. The Singapore Hadhramis were major landlords, the large families having substantial properties held in trust, which ranged from private family trusts to public charitable trusts. Most of the land in today's central business district of Singapore was once owned by Hadhrami Waqfs. These Waqfs, bearing the family names, whether private or charitable, gave considerable prestige to the Arab community among the Muslims in Singapore. In recent years, 4 factors have affected the Waqfs and undermined the status of the community. The first 3 factors have been a direct result of government policies. First factor. The first was the enactment of the Administration of Muslim Law Act 1968. The Singapore Islamic Council is the corporate body now empowered to oversee the administration of charitable Waqfs in Singapore. Prior to the act, the Arab trustees were in total control of the Waqfs. With the transfer of the Waqf's administration to the council, the Arabs' authority over them was considerably undermined. The association of Waqfs with the Arabs and the reputation as benefactors diminished as the public no longer saw the connection with the charitable functions of the Waqfs. Second factor. The second factor was the Rent Control Act 1947. The rents of pre-war properties were controlled and, in effect, frozen. As the Arab Waqfs were mostly pre-war properties, the income of the Arab families have correspondingly diminished. The decline in the income from the Waqfs resulted in the diminishing economic influence of the Arabs. The Arabs were also, unfortunately, not prepared for such a drastic drop in their income. They had not given the children a Western education. Many Arabs went to madrasas or Islamic schools, and some families never sent the children for any formal education at all. The changing developments that started taking place in Singapore since the 1960s has made it difficult for the Arabs to compete. Third factor. The third factor was the Land Acquisition Act. Given the size of the island, land is scarce in Singapore, and it has been the government's policy to have complete control over land usage. The Land Acquisition Act empowered the government to acquire land required for urban renewal and compensation to be paid on a predetermined formula. The compensation amounts calculated would be significantly lower than the prevailing market value. The government embarked on a major acquisition campaign in the 1970s and 1980s. Pre-war properties were the major target for acquisition as Singapore underwent a modernization program. These pre-war properties were subject to rent control and had tenants that could not be removed. The Waqfs were not in a position to develop these properties. Significant properties owned by Arab Waqfs were acquired and minimal compensation paid. This eroded Arab wealth and influence. It also diminished the Arab identity as substantial landlords. The Sheikh Salim Taleb family settlement, for example, used to have more than 3 pages in its audited accounts listing the properties held, but the current accounts have less than 1 page. More than half of the properties were acquired by the government. The Al-Sagaf Perseverance estate was acquired in 1962 for urban renewal. Another 10-acre plot of land in a prime area was donated by the Al-Junaid family to the Muslim Trust Fund to be developed so that the income could be used for welfare projects. The trust wanted to build a mosque and a madrasa, but building permission was not granted by the government. The piece of land was acquired in 1985. In present-day Singapore, the Arabs are no longer considered as the main landowners. Many Singapore Arabs regard the land acquisition policy as the main reason for both the loss of status and identity. Fourth factor. The fourth factor is the use of professional trustees to manage the Waqfs instead of family members. Most of the large private family trusts had problems of mismanagement or breaches of trust and legal disputes. In many cases a professional trustee was then appointed, which had a similar effect to the administration of Muslim Law Act. The management of the Waqfs became impersonal and the Arab families lost the social status of being associated with them. Notable Arab Singaporeans. This article contains a list of notable Arab Singaporeans, people with Arab ancestry born and naturalized in Singapore. Politics. Dr. Ahmad bin Muhammad Mattar, former Minister for the Environment, credited with cleaning up the Singapore River and other waterways. In 1972, he entered politics and successfully contested for a seat in Parliament, representing the constituency of Brickworks, and was to remain in Parliament until 1996. During his long and distinguished political career, he has held many senior government positions, first as Parliamentary Secretary for Education and then as Minister for Social Affairs, and finally as Minister for the Environment. In 1996, he retired from politics. He is currently the chairman of IMC Technologies, a private educational institution, where he continues to make contributions to education in Singapore. Syed Ali Redder Al-Sagoff, businessman, politician and Islamic teacher, known as the "father of Muslim bursaries." His distinguished service to spur Muslim students via the Prophet Muhammad Birthday Celebration Board spanned 3 decades from 1965. He also set up the Mendaki Foundation in 1982 to help children of Muslim parents from the lower income group with their education, served as a voluntary Islamic teacher at his former school, Al-Junaid Islamic School. He was also a businessman and real estate developer. Joining politics since the 1940s, he almost clinched the first mayor of Singapore in the late 1950s. He led the Malay Chamber of Commerce and Industry into the mainstream in Singapore. He was concerned with the socio-economic conditions of the Malays. To him, politics was a means towards achieving a more essential end, that is, to alleviate the downtrodden and marginal status of Malays in Singapore. This strategy is best reflected in his relentless services to the community, which persisted well after the separation of Singapore from Malaysia. Among the awards he received included the Knight of the Nation, the Public Service Star and Justice of Peace. Education Poad bin Sheikh Abu Bakr Mattar, PBM Pro-Chancellor, National University of Singapore since 2012. He was appointed as a member of the Public Service Commission in February 2004, and has been a member of the Council of Presidential Advisors since 2007. An accountant by training, he had held various positions in Deloitte and AMP Touche before becoming its senior partner in 2002. He retired from this position on 28 February 2006. He served as a director of Media Corp TV Singapore Private Limited between 1994 and 1999. From 1992 to 2003, he was a member of the NGEE and Polytechnic Council. He was also a board member of the Public Utilities Board from 1 April 2001 to 31 March 2007 and has been a director of its wholly owned subsidiary, Singapore Utilities International Pte Limited since 1 April 2004. He was awarded the Public Service Medal in 2002 and the Public Service Star in 2007. Armed Forces Syed Muhammad Syed Ahmad Al-Sagoff, Commander, Singapore Armed Forces. Born in Singapore, he had his education at the Victoria School. He later joined the Malayan Armed Forces, the predecessor of the Malaysian Armed Forces, rising to the rank of Major General before his retirement in the 1970s. When Singapore was part of Malaysia from 1963 to 1965, he was the commander of the Singapore Armed Forces, holding the rank of Brigadier General. The Singapore Armed Forces then consisted of the 4th Malaysian Infantry Brigade, which had 2 infantry regiments of about 1,000 soldiers each. Religion Syed Abdullah bin Ahmad Al-Jufri, Islamic scholar and teacher. He founded and led the Islamic Scholars and Teachers Association. He was also the principal of the Al-Junaid Islamic School and a member of the Fatwa Committee of the Islamic Religious Council of Singapore. He learned from famed scholars such as the late Sheikh Omar Abdullah Al-Khatib. Since 1977, he taught in many schools, mosques and Islamic organizations. A prolific writer, he authored, co-authored and translated many books. He also wrote numerous articles and Friday sermons. He also served in the MUIS Education Department. He was awarded the Public Service Star and MUIS Distinguished Service. As a great teacher, his death on 4 January 2003 was mourned by the Muslims in Singapore. Syed Ahmad Muhammad Samet, Islamic literary figure. His name was etched in the development of dakwah in the region, especially the translation of noted Islamic scholars' work from Arabic to Malay. He set up the Pustaka Nasional, one of the most enduring Malay publishing firms in the region. He learned from famed scholars such as the late Sheikh Omar Abdullah Al-Khatib. He wrote, translated and edited hundreds of books on Islam and taught as far as he could. Was an advisor to the Islamic Scholars and Teachers Association to revive Malay literary developments after Singapore's separation from Malaysia in 1965. He undertook the less lucrative venture of publishing novels, short stories and Malay poems. Let's Pray by Syed Ahmad bin Muhammad Samet. Let's learn to recite the Quran by S.A. Samet. Syed Isa bin Muhammad Samet, former Mufti of Singapore. He was born in Hadhramaut, Yemen. He came to Singapore after his father had tried to seek a better life for his family. A graduate of the Al-Junaid Islamic School, he also studied at the Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt, when the Asia Foundation decided to sponsor his air ticket after he had managed to obtain a scholarship from the institution. He subsequently received his bachelor's degree in Islamic jurisprudence from the university in 1969. He was appointed to the post of Mufti in 1972, at the age of 34, a position he only relinquished in 2011. He was awarded the Public Administration Medal in 2009. Sheikh Salim Mattar built the Salim Mattar Mosque in 1960. The mosque is located along Mattar Road, opposite McPherson Primary School. The mosque accommodates 1,400 people and offers religious classes on Sundays. Arts and Entertainment. Muhammad Alwi Al-Kaf, entertainer who is better known as Mo Al-Kaf. He was one of the top MCs, a comedian and an all-round entertainer in Asia. He also had a stint as a DJ on Singapore's local broadcast channel 91.3 FM as well as in the local clubs. Became famous when he hosted the Candid Camera-like TV series, Gotcha, in 1993-4. He was one of the main stars in the comedy movie One Leg Kicking. Since 1989, Mo Al-Kaf runs an events management company called Mosig Events International in Singapore, organizing meetings, incentives, conferences and events. He currently lives with his family in Colorado, USA. Sheikh Haikal. Sheikh Salam, rapper, actor and radio DJ who is better known as Sheikh Haikal. He became known to the public when he first won the Asia Baghaskar Championship as part of the rap duo Construction Site. In 1993. He has since established himself as a solo rap artist in both Singapore and Malaysia. He has also moved on to acting, appearing on stage, movies and television. He acted in the successful production of Army Days, and appeared in the top-rated television show Under One Roof. He was also a DJ for the local broadcast channel 98.7 FM when he was asked to leave in 2004 after complaints from some listeners about inappropriate risque comments he had made on air. Due to his popularity though, he was later back with The Breakfast Show on channel 91.3 FM in 2008. Muhammad Shahid bin Isaac, musician and a member of the Al Sagoff family who is better known simply as Syed. He is best known as an award-winning music producer for his work on the song Bersamamu by Malaysian rapper Joe Flitsov and Angguk Angguk. Jeleng Jeleng by the Singapore Malay hip-hop group Ali Fikir. He is also a music entrepreneur who started Bed-Stuy as a music production team and, later, into a full-fledged music provider that produced unique events and parties, artwork and designs. This business is known collectively as Bed-Stuy Music, Parties, Design. In 2010, he formed Bed-Stuy Artist Management to manage top urban acts and DJs, and Bed-Stuy Bedrock Publishing was incorporated as well to provide music publishing advice and services to musicians, composers, DJs and music producers. Munir bin Alwi al-Sergoff Munir bin Alawi al-Sikar, musician and producer. He is one half of the music production duo, The Invisible Heroes. Munir was also a member of the musical outfit Stoned Revivals and Urban Exchange. He was also the co-producer of the China House Hemi recording outfit's Parking Lot Pim's first album entitled Welcome to Our Frequency and was featured in recordings by artists such as Yvonne Hsu, Energy, Javier Sheikh Haikal, as well as in Singapore hip-hop outfit Urban Exchange's track remixes of Maxim, Brian McKnight and N.E.R.D. He is currently involved in projects featuring Brazilian jazz, soul and electronic music. Maimouna Bagharab, entertainer who is one half of a wacky comedy duo called Moona and Amp Hersey, which have gained an online following for the musical spoofs and parodies. She is also an actress with the Saria television channel.